influences our political positioning. It influences what we can actually, take in that's around us, and helps you develop your political framework. So, for me, the most important elements of growing up for me were growing up on welfare in Boston, raised by my great-grandmother, who was an Iowa Indian, in the Black community. And I think of her as, in a great-grandmother, so I think she was probably maybe 65 or 70 when I went to live with her. And I was 8. And I lived with her until I was 22 years old, and when I graduated from college in '71. But the image, I have 2 images of her. One was, we lived in a cold water walk-up flat. It was her every day, twice a day, in the winter, lifting a 5-gallon can of oil, heating oil, that she had to pour into a space heater to heat our flat in Boston. It was kind of like Minnesota. So she did that every day. And for a woman of her years to do that every day without complaint, without anger, was a gift to me, but it was also a gift to all of you all, because it made me know what I could do. Because if she could do that, I could do that. The other image of her I love is, I worked at WGBH-TV in Boston for one of the first black television shows in the country. It was called To Say Brother. I don't know where your sisters were supposed to be in that, but okay. And I wanted her, it was such exciting work, I wanted her to come to the studio one day. And so the producer, a very sweet brother, came, he said, well, I'll come and pick her up at your house. So he arrived in this WGBH van. And my great-grandmother came out of the house. So she's like in her 70s. And she looks at the van step. It's very high. I mean, now they make them in different levels, but at that time, it was high. I had a hard time getting up there. So she looked at the step, and she looked up at him, and he was mortified. He realized that this was a mistake. He should have come in a car. She grabbed those, the handle here and the thing. She pulled herself up and plopped down in that seat like she had been jumping in and out of vans all of her life. Just like barely get on a streetcar. And so that kind of, I can do it, I will do it attitude, as a poor woman of color, really, really made me aware of my power as an activist. And there's something about living on that particular margin at that time, because there was still the potential of hope, because the movements were still swirling around us. That sense of hope was very, very important to me. And I think I have become much more optimistic than a lot of people of my generation because of that family sense of hope that grew out of understanding that poverty was a condition, it was a class, but it was not a mark. It was not a shameful thing. Even though, the Moynihan report basically said, women of color on welfare were, the death of Western civilization, then perhaps it should die. It was my response. So, in an odd way, growing up quite poor made things possible for me, made feminism possible for me, because I wasn't on a pedestal. I didn't have to climb down off the pedestal. I needed to reach out and hold on to the women who've been important to me.
Well, I really appreciate what you shared, Joe, because I think for a lot of people who are growing up in orphanages or foster homes and we're not having families, so you have to think about, where am I getting my values, where am I going to get the things that influenced me, and I really am a strong believer in this concept of all you know is all you know. All you know is all you know. And we keep that in mind, because I think people make a lot of assumptions. And for me, even though it was only a handful of kids of color, this was a pretty middle-class, valued home that we were in. And so I walked around with that for a while. For me, the hardest part was being black, being in a home, being a woman. Where was I looking for any potential role models for coming out as a lesbian? I didn't know Bonnie Lord. I didn't know any of these people. I knew about Joan Baez being bisexual at once and Janis Joplin, but that's great. No disrespect. Only to find out later that some of the icons of the 60s were lesbian. Janice Ian, Laura Nero. If I had known that, you literally saved people's little lives. And speaking in that, and there I go, Barbara Jordan, because then you have a role model of a woman who's a lesbian, also to elected to office. And now, but now we actually, the good news, we have people like Joan Gardner, elected Atlanta. Luana Mayfield, who just got elected, the first out black lesbian in Charlotte, North Carolina. Barbara Smith, Honorable, Albany, New York, where I was born. You know, so I think now, the wonderful thing now is that because you have people who are willing to step out and be there, Jewel, you get to see the role models. But the one person for me, if I had known this man when I was coming out, is Byron Russell.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, thinking about the incredible thing, the gift that was the Civil Rights Movement, if it hadn't been for this man courageous enough to be black, gay, and who I am is who I am, where would we look? Where in hell, and no disrespect for Barbara Jordan and others who could feel whatever the reason can't be out, but to walk through life, and this would be true for other communities of color, to walk through life and not have anything. But we get celebrated now. Yeah. So I just share that that is so important. And for those, again, if you can be out in this book, do it and do yourself. You literally save people's lives. So class, I don't know, I have no money. Oh, I am on Social Security now. Yeah. All right, y'all.
Well, I think it's interesting that the man in my life who brought that sense of politics and fierceness was Miss Kay.
Who's Miss Kay?
Miss Kay came to my father's bar all the time, and I would visit my father on the weekends. He was a bartender. And Miss Kay was, then we would say drag queen, may have been transgender if that was a designation at that time. Miss Kay gave me all of her hand-me-down clothes. She was my size because I was a big girl. And the power of that presence, and it's that out quality that you think, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, real quick, and before we call, there was a person named Sylvester. Anyone in this room?